Hey guys, welcome back to Oak Abode. I have here with me Mr. Bigfoot, and he is a silkie chicken. Today I'm answering a lot of the questions we get about silkie chickens, just gonna kind of tell you guys the things that we wish we knew before we got our silkies. We have 4 silkies, so this is Bigfoot, he's a rooster, and I'm gonna kind of switch out the other 3 throughout the video so you guys can kind of get an idea of the different colors and what they look like. As usual, I did write a blog post with everything I'm about to talk about, so if you prefer to read instead of watch, you can just click the link in the description and that will take you to our website with kind of a summary of everything in this video. So we have 2 silkie roosters. Like I said, this is Bigfoot. I think our silkies are about 5 or 6 months old now, and I don't think they've started laying. Silkies do take a little longer to mature than some of the other egg laying breeds. So if you're looking for a mature rooster or an egg layer, which is kind of laughable if you're looking at silkies anyway, but this is kind of what they look like at about 5 or 6 months. He's pretty much fully feathered, I'd say, but knowing our other chickens, he'll probably like mature a little bit more. So silkies are one of the more popular chicken breeds. They are, however, very different from kind of most of the other more popular chicken breeds. They're popular for mainly probably because they're so stinking cute. I mean, don't you dare pick me. Really, look at this. It's pretty stinking adorable, and every time I see them, I kind of laugh. They have these puffy little tails too. One of the things that sets silkies apart from most other chickens is they don't really have those thick outer layers. They're flight feathers. They do surprisingly have a couple of them, but they are almost entirely these super soft, downy feathers, so they really are very soft, very fun to cuddle chickens. That doesn't necessarily mean they're cuddly, which I'll go into in a second, but I mean, really, how can you say no to this? Unfortunately, I do have to admit that our silkies were total impulse buys, so we saw them as little chicks at Tractor Supply and we just grabbed some, which I don't recommend, which I'll go into why, but because they were impulse buys, we have had quite a few surprises along the way since we didn't really do our silkie research. So here are some of the things we learned through trial and error. You gonna help us out, Bigfoot? Now, I know there are a lot of silkie lovers out there. I'm not trying to bash on silkies. They're a lot of fun. You just kind of have to know what you're getting because we tend to get really functional chickens and try to have a functional flock. And these guys are obviously, we knew they weren't the most functional chickens when we got them, but we didn't really realize how much extra care they needed. So one of the things that I will say about silkies is I do find that they are more calm than other chickens. I wouldn't necessarily say that they are more snuggly. Bigfoot is really just kind of tolerating me right now. He would probably prefer to be on the ground, but he is being pretty calm, all things considered, because really these silkies weren't handled much as chicks. Within breeds, you will always find chickens with different personalities, and kind of the common denominator for a really nice chicken that I have found are the chickens that I handled a lot as baby chicks. So without fail, to me, the best way to get a really nice chicken is to pick at least a breed that's not known for being flighty, but also to handle them a lot as chicks, which we didn't do with our silkies. Honestly, we were so busy with moving. The chicks grew up pretty quickly and we didn't handle them a whole lot. Because of this, they are not the friendliest chickens in our flock. What I will say is that they are more tame than the other chicks we haven't handled that are not silkies, if that makes sense. So I think they are naturally inclined to be more tame and more friendly and a little bit more laid back, but if you don't really handle them a lot as baby chicks, they'll still end up being pretty flighty. You could probably tame them as adults too, but I don't want people to think that they can just get baby chicks and never spend any time with them and then have these like super sweet pets, because ours really are more flighty than most of our other birds just because they haven't been handled a whole lot. So kind of to summarize that very long point, silkies tend to be a little more laid back and chill than most other chicken breeds, but if you want a really, really calm pet, they do still require quite a bit of handling and training, if you will. It's really just kind of chicken gentling. Another thing to know, especially this time of year, is that a lot of people say silkies are not necessarily cut out for winter. Now, one thing that is really frustrating about doing internet research is that if you ask one question, you'll oftentimes get 3 different answers at least. It seems like there's some disagreement in the silkie world whether or not they are more sensitive to cold than other birds. Most of the reading that I've done are people saying that silkies are more sensitive to cold in the winter and that they need extra heat, whereas other chickens might not necessarily need extra heat. That being said, I've also read some people who have kept silkies for like 14 years say that they're actually warmer in the winter than other chickens. I don't think anyone's actually done any real reliable studies on this. So my main takeaway is that if you have silkies and you live somewhere where it gets cold in the winter, they do require an extra eye. So this is our first winter with the silkies. We're gonna keep a really good eye on them. I did a whole video on care for chickens in the winter. Long story short, most of them just require a draft-free, dry environment. We are not opposed, however, to adding extra heat for the Silkies because we've heard that they might actually need it, especially in really cold environment like ours. Now, generally people have really strong opinions on chicken care during the winter. I know some people might be triggered about that. All I'm saying is we're gonna keep a really good eye on them since we have been tipped off by other Silkie owners that they might need some extra help in the winter. All right, what do you say we tag you out with one of your buddies? We're gonna switch it out. All right, this is Chester. He is our second Silkie rooster. He is also our meanest rooster out of the 3 that we have. We also have a Jersey Giant who is much nicer than Chester. Please don't peck me in the eye. As you will see when I bring out some of our Silkie Pullets. The next thing you should know is that Silkies are pretty hard to tell apart, males and females, pretty much until one either crows or lays an egg. And they're I'm kind of scared of Chester, low-key. He's small but mighty. Now Chester is struggling quite a bit. I'll just add pretty quick, this is a perfect example of why I am so much more interested in chicken personality than chicken breed when it comes to disposition, because you guys saw Bigfoot, he's super chill. Chester, on the other hand, is really not. Chill is not his word. Silkie Pullets and Cockerels are relatively hard to tell apart compared to other chicken breeds. Some of the giveaways are mainly the comb. The problem is, like, as you guys saw in Bigfoot, you couldn't even see his comb because he has so many head feathers. Silkies are considered bantam chickens, so kind of like miniature chickens. And because of that, they can't be sexed as chicks. So other than DNA testing, the most reliable way to tell a chick, male from a female, is called vent sexing. And because Silkies are so small as little tiny chicks, it's really not safe to use the vent sexing technique. So most breeders and hatcheries will not offer them, you know, as pullets or cockerels. Most of them just offer them as straight run, which is where you're gonna get roughly 50% male and 50% female. So because the males and females are harder to tell apart at a young age, they might not be the best for backyard flocks because a lot of people with backyard flocks can't have roosters. That's one reason we didn't get this breed until now, because when we had a backyard flock, I wasn't about to buy baby chicks and then try and pawn off the roosters on somebody else. Really, the roosters are very hard to find homes for. So we only did straight run chicks as soon as we knew that we'd be able to keep the boys. Whether or not that was a good idea remains to be decided. Another thing you should know before buying Silkies is that Silkies need either kind of a pristine coop or sometimes they even need extra grooming. And the reason is because of these very cute little feathered feet here. I don't know if you can see on Chester, but there's some poop on those feathers, right? I mean, we're being real right now, right, buddy? I'll give you a better example with Bigfoot because he has those pretty white feathers. Now we do keep their coop very clean for this reason. The problem is that when they are walking around, they are gonna get poop stuck to these feathers. You know, other breeds like Cochins and our black copper Morans have some feathers on their legs too. People who live in a cold environment especially have to keep an eye on this because during the winter, if they have moisture on their feathers or poop on their feathers, when it gets cold enough to freeze, it can freeze to their feet, and obviously that would not be comfortable, but it's also a risk for frostbite, which is never good. You know, even if it's not winter, it's still really important to make sure their coop is clean enough where they're not getting this stuff on their feet, because, I mean, that's how you can get all sorts of foot problems. All right, what do you say we get your sister Lily? Sister? Girlfriend? I don't know. This is awkward. Okay, I have sweet little Lily here to tell you about our next point. Lily is a little pullet because she has not laid an egg yet. She is not a hen, but she does have this very pretty kind of splash coloring, I believe it's called. She's kind of like a mix of black and gray and white. She's very, very pretty. Another thing to know about Silkies is that they tend to make great mamas. So a lot of the egg-laying breeds have had the broodiness bred out of them. That's where they go, where they want to sit on eggs because they want to hatch little babies. And a lot of the egg-laying breeds have kind of had that bred out of them so that they lay more eggs instead of take care of babies. Silkies, however, are kind of notorious for still going broody quite a bit and being really good mamas. And in fact, they are even known for taking care of like other species of animals like kittens or dogs. Even I saw a really cute one taking care of a 2 or 3-legged chihuahua. It was adorable. And that's kind of the main reason we justified adding Silkies to our flock, because we would like to hatch some eggs someday, if not next year, maybe just someday. And we're not really sure if our other hens will go broody, so we're hoping these Silkie ladies will help out and they'll raise the other hens' chicks. Now, kind of on that point, it's really good to know that Silkies are really not great for egg supply. They don't lay a whole lot of eggs, and the eggs that they do lay are very small. I wish we had some that we could show you. unfortunately these Silkies have not laid any eggs yet. That's another thing to know. They do take longer to mature than a lot of other chicken breeds, so they might take longer to lay eggs. But if you are looking for an egg laying flock, especially if you can only have a few chickens, if you're in like a backyard flock situation, Silkies might not be your best bet unless you don't eat a lot of eggs. Then it's probably not a big deal, but they're not gonna lay a lot of eggs, and the eggs that they do lay are pretty small. Another thing to know is that Silkies are really not waterproof. So obviously chickens are not waterproof in general, they're not ducks, but Silkies are like really not waterproof. So it's really important to make sure that they have somewhere dry that they can escape to. Dry obviously in the sense that rain isn't raining on them, but also dry in the sense that it's not moist and damp, because I mean, that's important for all chickens, but these guys are just soft and fluff. So really, really important to make sure that they have somewhere dry that they can be. You know, like any down feathers, if they get wet, not only are they not gonna keep them warm, but they're gonna be actively making them colder. So really important to make sure you have adequate shelter for these guys. All right, what do you say we go get Buttercup, huh? We're gonna go get Buttercup. Okay, the last one I have for you here is Little Miss Buttercup, and you might be thinking she looks a lot like Chester, which she does. She's actually quite a bit smaller, so that is the main difference. The other thing is she doesn't have this great big comb on her forehead that Chester had. I mean, really, look how teeny, she's teeny tiny. You teeny tiny. You know, she and Chester were exactly the same size, looked exactly alike as little chicks. So I wish I could tell you there was like a way to pick out the really mini ones if that's what you want, but they looked exactly the same as babies. She just didn't grow nearly as much. Okay, the next thing to know about Silkies is that they are really not cut out for free ranging like other chickens. Now that's not to say they can't free range. I do know people who free range their Silkies. What is the problem here is you see these really cute fluffy feathers on the top of her head. She actually sees pretty well for a Silkie. She also has these big cheeks. Now obviously Bigfoot has basically feathers covering his whole entire face, and he actually doesn't see all that well. So that's the reason they're not really cut out for free ranging, because they do not see overhead predators as easily as other chickens. Now some people argue that they just run in when the other chickens run in, so you can free range them. We just don't free range ours because it's just heartbreaking to lose them to air predators, and these guys, our Polishes, have literally gotten completely lost. They're so bad at seeing, so we just don't want to risk it for these guys either. We just keep them in a covered run. It's a little bit contrary to what we wanted to do with chicken keeping. We are very big on free ranging where we are, so that was kind of a bummer to have to set up a whole new system for these little impulse buys from Tractor Supply, but obviously their little lives are totally worth it. Yeah, it is. I'm almost at a light here. Two more things that I want you to know about Silkies. They really cannot fly. So a lot of people are surprised to find out that chickens can actually fly at least a little ways. Kind of depends on the breed, who flies more than others. These guys really cannot fly. So if you're looking for a flock to stay within a fenced yard, that might actually be a good thing. But if you're looking for a flock that is good at getting away from predators, just something to know that they really cannot fly. And the reason for that is because they have horrible little excuses for flight feathers, as you can imagine. I'm sure this isn't gonna help much of anyone with anything when it comes to flying. And the last thing that I will say, this is something that I have read and heard from other Silkie owners more than experienced, because ours are separated from the rest of our flock, but supposedly Silkies can be prone to bullying. What I have heard is because of their kind of more docile nature, they're more timid, that other chickens can take advantage of this and really bully them. And as any experienced chicken owner knows, if a chicken starts to get bullied, it actually becomes a life or death situation, because if chickens see one little wound, they can really peck at it and make it a life-threatening wound. So not to say that you cannot keep your Silkies with other breeds. I know people personally who do it. Just really important to keep an eye out and make sure that everybody's getting along and the Silkies are not getting bullied by the bigger, stronger guys. Those are really the most important Silkie considerations that we have learned along the way with these little impulse buys that were like $8 when we bought them, but we had to spend probably $600 on other equipment for them since then. Please leave any other Silkie tips that you guys have in the comments below. They really are a very fun breed. I'm not trying to turn people off of them. I just want people to know that they take a little extra care before they get them, because it's so sad when I get DMs from people saying their chicken died and what caused it, and it was something totally preventable. So know, if you're gonna get into the Silkie world, that they require a little extra care, but also that they deserve it and they are worth it too. If you guys haven't already subscribed to our channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you can join us again in the future. Our Instagram handle is oak_. silkies_abode if you're not following us in there. And we have a brand new podcast that we just started, so I will link that for you guys below. We are new to the podcasting world, but hopefully getting a little bit better each time. Thank you for watching. Best of luck with your silkies, and we will see you next time.